Hello, Professor Toybox here, along with Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey, and we're back in my Fantasia toy box for another episode of Toybox Tutorials. Before I begin, I want to let you know that this will be the last episode for a few weeks. I'm taking some time off to enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States with my family. The next episode of Toybox Tutorials will air on Friday, December 11th. Now today's episode is going to be a bit of a hodgepodge of things because I'm going to work on finishing up this area of the Magician's Castle. The first thing I want to do is show you how to create a simple door using the Path Creator. And this is something I do often in my toy boxes, and I'm sure it will come in handy for you as well. And then I'm going to set up some additional obstacles for Mickey using a few of the toys out of the Platforming Toys drawer. We haven't really looked at any of these toys yet in this series, so this will be a good introduction to them. So the first thing I want to do today is create a door that will serve as a bit of a barrier to keep the player from progressing into the next area. And that's actually the first puzzle. The whole point of the puzzle in this area is to find a way to open the door. And now I could use this door, but that looks kind of tacky. And I could even move it over here, but you see it doesn't go all the way up to the archway, and I can't put it inside the arch. I can't make it any taller. So sometimes the automatic doors that are inside the Gameplay Toys drawer just don't work, and they don't meet your needs. But it's easy enough to use the Path Creator to build a door, and so what I'd like to do is we're going to come up to the Creativitoys drawer, and the first thing I'm going to do is put down a button up here. This is the button that the player needs to get to open that door. And then we'll come over to the Path Creator. And once again, the initial point is going to be at the bottom of the object. And since I want this block that I'm going to put in here to fill this archway, I'm going to set the first point for the Path Creator right here inside the archway like that. Okay, and then I want the door to move upward, so I'm going to put it right here like that, just one step down, a half a block down underneath the block that's up on top. And there's our path. And then we'll come into the properties. And the only thing I need to change under here is to turn the auto start objects when connected off, because I don't want the block to move until I tell it to. Alright, now we need a block that will serve as the door. So I'm going to come up to the blocks drawer, and there's actually one other block I want to put down first. And you'll see why I need this in a moment, but I'm going to put this right up here like that. And then the block that we need for the doorway is going to be this large wall block right here. And for right now, I'll stick that right here like this, and it doesn't really matter whether I orient it that way or that way. So we'll put it this way. And for the texture on this, I had already set the style to be the Dunbrock brick. But for the doorway, I'm going to use the Wood 1 texture, and I'll apply that. And there's some other wood textures you could use if you'd prefer, but that's what I'm going to use. So this is the block we're going to attach to that path. So we'll open up the logic menu and do a new path connection. And come down here to the Path Creator and connect it to that path. Now you can see the block is sitting in there, and it's preventing the player from getting through. On the block properties, we can come under Toy Box Path, and everything under here looks good. I just want to change the movement style to one way and stop. Okay. Alright, and then to open the door, we'll connect this button So we'll do a new logic connection on the button when pressed. Come over to the path creator, and we'll do a reset and play. And that will open the door. And we can test that out. Now you can see the door went up. So there we are. And then to reset the door, we can go ahead and hook up our reset button in my toy box here. So we'll do a new logic connection when pressed. We'll come over to the path creator and do a reset and stop. And that will put the door back in the closed position. So you can see it's pretty easy to build your own door using the path creator and a block. And you can trigger it with a button, or you can trigger it with a dynamic trigger or a trigger area, or shoot a target, or however you want to open the door. So there's our door. I do this pretty frequently in my toy boxes. Sometimes I have the door go up like I did here. Sometimes I take the path, the second path point, and I go down, and the door disappears down into the ground. You could also have it go off to the side if you'd rather it open that way. It's totally up to you. Okay, so now that we've got that set up, now the mines that we've set up over here are going to make it difficult for Mickey to get up to push this button. But right now it's very easy for Mickey to come over here, cross that little bridge, and climb the ladder to get to this button to stop the mines. So I want to add a few more obstacles in here for Mickey so that that's not quite as easy. And so to do that, we'll come down to the platforming toys drawer, and we'll take a look at some toys that are in here that we can use. So one of the obstacles that I kind of like is this rock hammer pendulum. And this is why I stuck that block up there, so it doesn't look like this is hanging in midair. And so now with that swinging back and forth, that makes it a little more challenging for Mickey to get to that platform. And I can just leave it like that, and that works great. But just so you're aware, there is a logic menu that's available for this. And if we open that up, you can connect this toy to a path, and you can also establish logic connections. And so if we were to do that, when this toy is turned on or off, it'll broadcast a trigger signal. And what that means is that you can hook up other toys to this. So I could hook up, for example, a button or perhaps a level starter. Oops. There we go. And for just demonstration purposes, let's just put down a button. So we can do a new logic connection when pressed, come over to the rock hammer pendulum and turn it off. And again, you could do that on a level starter as well, or a trigger area, so that when you push the button, now it locks into place and stops. And if you do that with a level starter, or even with a trigger area, you don't necessarily know which direction that's going to be. So the level starter could kick in when the rock hammer pendulum's on the other side. And then if you wanted, you could set up a little trap with a trigger area. And when the player enters the trigger area, when entered by player any, you can turn this back on. And that gets a little bit more devious because it looks like you're okay to walk under here, though you know something's going to trigger that, but you're not sure what. Whoosh. So you can get pretty devious with that trap. As I said, you could hook up a level starter to that and then use a trigger area to set it off. And so that lets you create some interesting little traps. For my toy box, I think I'll just go ahead and leave that running. But I wanted you to be aware of that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this link from the button. Okay, that by itself adds a little challenge. But another thing you can do is we can come over here, and there's a spike triggering platform. We can put down some spikes over here. So maybe the player can't just stand here and wait for that rock hammer. And just like the rock hammer, you notice this has a logic menu as well. And so if we open this up, there are some properties, and there's 3 of them. The first is a delay, and you'll notice by default it's set to 0, which means right now, as soon as I step on this plate, the spikes will trigger and hurt Mickey. So I could add a 1-second delay, or even take this all the way up to 10 seconds if I want. I think 1 second's probably fine, just so the player doesn't linger over that. You can also assign the spikes to a team. And so anybody who's on that same team can safely walk over these spikes and they won't be hurt. But anyone who's on another team would get hurt. And you can also adjust the damage. So you could take that all the way up so that the spikes are lethal. But I think that's probably fine. And of course that only affects, the properties only affect the one spike that I changed. So I have to come into all of these and set all of these the same way. And add the 1-second delay on all of them. So if you have a large field of spikes, you're going to have to set this every time. But it doesn't take very long, and it's not difficult. There we go. So you've got 1 second after you step on that to get off that plate. So you can't stand there very long. So now when we step on, you can see they come on pretty quick. So Mickey needs to get on and off those things pretty quickly. And I could run those spikes a little bit further down there if I want. So Mickey's going to have to run across these really quick and then wait for this to come along and then get up onto this platform. So that makes it a little bit tougher to get up here and stop the mines from rolling down that ramp. So I like that. And of course there's a whole host of other things under here. There's a tar trap that slows the player down. Another hazard plate, which kind of works like the spikes, but it's a little bit more futuristic. There's a few devices from the Droid Factory and the Twilight of the Republic playset. Some laser fences that move around, the masher, and rotating spikes. Let's go ahead and add one of these out here. And I'm going to put this down right out here like that. So that'll make another little obstacle for the player to have to get around to cross that bridge over there. And you'll notice this has a logic menu too. Most of the traps do. And so you can put this on a path. There's also some properties. You can change it so there's only one arm. You can change the speed. The default is 6, but we can turn it up and really make this thing move. Or we can slow it way down. So if you have some younger players at home, or you're trying to make a little bit easier toy box for them, you can do that. But that's kind of nasty, actually. That's really sadistic. I like it. Alright, so there's another trap that you can add in. So most of the traps are very basic. You can just place them and let them work as is, but you can also have some properties and some logic connections that you can use to make them a bit more interesting. Now the last one we're going to look at is this Dunbrock enemy spawning cauldron. And let me pick this up so that you can see where that is. It's in the Gameplay Toys drawer. And we looked at this briefly back in episode 10, a long time ago, but I haven't ever used one, so let's go ahead and use one now. It works just like an enemy wave generator. So we'll open up the logic menu and I'm going to come down and configure the wave. And we'll add in some Dunbrock enemies. And I'm going to put in this marsh muck. And we'll go ahead and add 3 of them. That should be enough because this thing is going to keep spawning them until we destroy the cauldron. And then on the properties, take the generation delay. We'll give it a second just to give it the player a little bit of breathing room. And we don't need any of those effects, but I'll leave the rest of that all set the way it is. Now the cauldron doesn't do anything until you activate it. So unlike the enemy wave generator, you can't just connect to it and have it generate the wave. You turn it on and turn it off. So on our button over here, because I don't need that running, it's off by default. I don't need that running until they can get out there. So when they push this button to open the door, we'll do a new logic connection when pressed, and we'll come out and turn on the cauldron at the same time. So by the time the player gets down there and comes through the door, we should have some of those little green energy things moving around out here. So there we go. So that makes this area a little bit more interesting. I'm going to go ahead and step through this archway, which will start the mines rolling down the track. Where it's supposed to. Did I not go far enough? There we go. Alright, so we got those running. And I really like that. But of course, don't want to try to run up there. So we'll have to brave this side of the area. Alright, so then we climb up here, push the button. That stops the mines. And that means we can now hop across here. Whoa! Got to time that double jump just right. Wait as long as you can to get across that wide gap. So then we come over here and push the button. And now the door is open. And now, I might need some ladders on the other side, huh? Yep, gonna need some ladders over there. Because Mickey needs a way to get across in the other direction. There we are. So now he should be able to hop across there. And you'll note now we've got some of those little green things over here. We want to destroy this cauldron. And there we go. So now there should be no more of those green things, although they're all out there in that area. And then we got this obstacle that we can try to time and run around to get over here. And Mickey can go collect mushrooms. And with that, the interior of the Magician's Castle is almost done. In the next episode, I'll put some finishing touches on this toy box, and then we'll create the third and final toy box in my Fantasia adventure, which will be a small arena where Mickey will battle the big villain who tried to take over the Magician's Castle. Again, that episode will air on Friday, December 11th, so be sure to come back for it. Or better yet, just click my photo in the lower right corner to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that, and that way you won't miss it. That's all for me today. Have a great weekend.